Huh?
Yeah, kick ass.
I feel the need.
Boss me. Ow. Kick ass.
Hello everyone, it's Greyson and this is Greyson Talks Everything. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We have an amazing discussion as always on this channel. And if you are returning, welcome back. Again, like I just said, we have an amazing discussion because today we're going to be talking about WandaVision episode 6. So I really like this episode, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So if you like what you see, or if you've checked out some of my other videos, I do implore you to go and check out some of my other videos that I've recently posted. But, yeah. Sorry, excuse me. But, do be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And also follow my Instagram where you can get the latest updates on when movies and TV shows are coming out. And when videos of mine are coming out. And just admire some art of mine that I regularly post. Like these right here. And you could also, my Instagram link, or the link to my Instagram is always in the description of the videos. But if you want to know what my Instagram tag is right now, it is right here. Alright, let's get on to the video. You know, I feel like with each episode I watch, I have the exact same, like, fantastic experience nonetheless. It's like each episode is like a fun ride. But when each episode ends, I get really frustrated with the cliffhangers they leave us on until next Friday. But then I go through a whole rewatch, and then I realize there are a lot of like clues and Easter eggs to uncover. And it makes for a more interesting thought process and more interesting theories to go along with, and just more stuff to talk to you about. So I am thankful that this show is just so well structured. It's like very well structured show, and a very well written show as well. And like I just love the talent that has been working behind and in front of the camera. To make this show like completely work how it does, especially with this episode where I think they've really stepped up like the like design and like the set design of each episode, especially due to the fact that this episode is Halloween themed. And when you watch this episode, it becomes very clear that Wanda and Vision are being hunted down by very different but very powerful forces. Like Vision is being tracked down and hunted down by more science menacing forces like Director Hayward, and while Wanda is presumably being hunted down by more magical forces like either Nightmare or Mephisto, or probably even Nightmare working for Mephisto, and that Nightmare might be posing as this version of Quicksilver. Because Quicksilver, throughout this entire episode, has been acting very, like, villainous in a way, and very henchman-like. And, like, if you saw my last video on WandaVision, my review and breakdown of WandaVision Episode 5, you would see, like, how he's acting a lot more different than he did in, like, the X-Men movies where he played Quicksilver. So he seems very villainous. And, again, I love the set design, everything again with Halloween, and I love, like, I'm getting ahead of myself, but like with the entire set design where we go and meet at like the town square, basically. I'm pretty sure that's town square, where they're near the movie theater, and there's this like entire like Halloween like ball setup. I just loved it there. It was so good, and it reminded me a lot of X-Men. Like a lot of scenes in here kind of reminded me of X-Men in some places, and I'm a huge fan of X-Men, so I personally did not mind. But then again, it's also with this Halloween stuff and like the comic accurate costumes and the comic accurate Halloween costumes. We'll get to that later. Again, it reminded me a lot of the original comic that this is partly based off of, which I actually have right here. It's actually really good. Pick it up. It's Avengers: Vision and the Scarlet Witch: A Year in the Life. It's actually so good. It's also well written and well structured. So yeah, definitely go read that. But yeah, let's just get into this. Okay, so when we start the episode, we reach this part, like, before the episode, like, really starts. It goes, like, last time on WandaVision. It just gives you, like, a rundown of what happened in the episode before, so you know, so you're catched up. But I find it particularly, like, weird, or, like, a clue to something bigger, that they actually, like, included Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver in this part, where he was, like, he was shot in the street, and they used the tone, or, like, the over, like, side of it. It was, like, Monica's voice was on top of the video, and it was like, Ultron killed your brother, didn't he? So I'm thinking, since I'm pretty sure all of us can agree that Evan Peters is not the real Pietro. So and remember back a couple weeks ago when Elizabeth Olsen said that there would be a huge surprise guest at the end of the show? I think it actually might just be Aaron Taylor Johnson. Because who better to fight off and, like, protect Wanda from her fake twin brother than her actual twin brother risen from the dead? I think that would be a very powerful and emotional scene if they get it right. And I know this team that's working behind the scenes will definitely get it right. And then after that, I'm positive that Evan Peters is not playing, like, Quicksilver for a while. So, or he's not the real Quicksilver, in my opinion. I really don't think so. Okay, so we start off this episode with a very high energy intro, actually. Because the last episode we had, like, a cold open, more or less. But this time we start off with a very high energy intro that at first I couldn't really pinpoint, but my mom, because I do watch alongs with my moms before I do these videos and jot down my notes. She pointed out that this was based off of Malcolm in the Middle, which I thought that was pretty cool. And it's like this camera is just going everywhere and following everybody around the house, and they're just trying to make this like normal suburban family look as relatable as possible. And I think they do a great job at doing that without underestimating the superpowered aspects of the characters. And I like how they actually integrated with like WandaVision and Quicksilver, how they integrated their powers into this intro, like how they caught Wanda while she was like doing her curls, how she had like her rolls in, and she was also brushing her teeth, so she had to like close the door with her magic because she was doing a lot of stuff at once. I thought that was a great scene. And then we cut to Vision, where they go downstairs and he's chasing after Tommy, who presumably might actually be the one holding the camera, but through some shots you don't really know. And then he was like, how usually like dads will like go over like the couch to like catch the child, and like these intros, this one could actually go through the couch. So I thought that was like a great like mini gag. And then we cut into the kitchen, where we see Agnes like just roaming around in their fridge with a little like with her jeans bedazzled on her butt, and it was like naughty. When you like pause it, and he was like, it says naughty, which it says on her butt, it says naughty, which I think it perfectly represents why I still think, even after what we saw in this episode, I still think Agnes is playing some sort of Agatha Harkness. And I was at first I was wondering, okay, so this is kind of weird, like why are you at the house in the dawn of the morning? But I did realize that in like the comics, like in Vision Quest, which I also have, I think it's put like over there, but in Vision Quest and those comics where Tommy and Billy are still like infants or toddlers, Agatha Harkness did serve as like their nanny and their aunt to a certain degree, so it would make sense why she would keep going and browsing around, especially since she is their neighbor in this Westview hex. But again, naughty perfectly suits her, because it would be nice if she wasn't Agatha Harkness. And since like how Pietro called the twins Demon Spawn later in the episode, who better to like watch over Demon Spawn than the person that works for a demon? So I thought that was like a pretty cool nod. And then we meet up, and then we go outside and we see like Evan Peters' version of Pietro, the fake Pietro, and one thing I did find weird is that when we got to him, on like the title card, it does like say everyone as like Wanda, Vision, Agnes, and everyone. It was like, for him, it was like Pietro Maximoff as himself. So I'm like, is this another fake out? Because you haven't done this with any of the other characters. So I think like Marvel's trying to be like, yes, it is Pietro, and trying to like distract us because it might actually be Aaron Taylor Johnson. Is still out there somewhere. Again, this isn't the real Pietro. I don't know. I kind of understand where that could come from, because I did say that the multiverse might be in like another. That the multiverse could be in play, but I still think that this is not the real Pietro. So the episode like officially starts, and who is narrating at least the first part of this episode? It's Billy. It's Billy himself, which honestly is very telling of what more is to come, because Billy takes after his mom power-wise. So it would be like, it kind of would be obvious that he'd be aware of the field, especially at the end, or more aware of like what's going on, that this is a TV show, because he shares Wanda's, or his mother's technically, his reality warping powers. They share their same powers, the same power set technically. And then I actually love this shot where like both the foreground and the background are in focus. I'm so sorry. But I love that scene. It was like very like powerful and stunning in a way. And then you see Quicksilver lying on the ground, and he's like slowly listening to Billy and Tommy's conversation. And also I love Billy's like Halloween made costume that's like ripped from the comics, like it's like a homemade version. I loved it. It was so good. And again, another thing he takes after like his mother, like the red cape and everything. He definitely like loves his mother more. Even though, like we said in the last video I made about this, Wanda probably favors Tommy more. Shucks, that sucks for Billy. But Billy and Tommy were having this discussion, and Tommy was like, "Why are you scared of like Quicksilver? Like what?" And then it like hit me like, why is Billy scared of Quicksilver? Probably because he's evil and he's not what he seems. But then Tommy says, if you could hear it, I would suggest you turn your volume up to like re-listen to it again. He was like, you're probably afraid of him because you think he's a vampire, because he's like raised from the dead, or like he's from hell. Like I think that would be like a really like cool like revelation. I think that'd be awesome. I still think he's not the real Quicksilver. He's definitely working for like some sort of demon, either Nightmare or Mephisto or both. But yeah, I actually really do like, after that scene, we get to see Quicksilver officially use his super speed. That was all fantastic. I really like that. And then we see Wanda come downstairs, and she looks fantastic in that homemade Scarlet Witch costume. She needs to keep the headdress. She needs to keep it. It looks fantastic on Elizabeth Olsen. It just looks so good. And she worked it like great in this episode, and it did look practical, more practical than one would seem. It looked fantastic. But then I also liked how she gave a little bit more meaning to the costume, rather than it just being coming out of nowhere. And it also adds on more to the lore of the Scarlet Witch character as a whole, to where it seems more, to where they asked, hey, why do you look like old Red Riding Hood? Which I thought was a little rude, considering it's Elizabeth Olsen is your mom. But she said, oh, it's an old Sokovian, like, not like a gypsy, but it's an old Sokovian fortune teller's costume, which I thought that was like a really cool nod and something that could be like really cool. But then Quicksilver like influenced them to call her dorky, which this is not the Quicksilver that Evan Peter used to play. He's definitely onto something. And throughout this episode, it definitely seemed that he was trying to push one of the twins in his direction. Most definitely Tommy. Again, Quicksilver is not what he seems in this episode. Also, throughout the first part of this episode, we see Billy narrating again, and he goes off and was like, Wanda has been acting, or his mother technically, Wanda has been acting really weird since Quicksilver got home, or like since Uncle Pietro has come into town. and has been fighting, or not really fighting, but has been at a standoff with Vision a lot, which we're about to see. But before that, Quicksilver brings up like their old memories, or her supposedly old memories of them as children during their Sokovian Halloween, which I thought that was a great gag that they brought in. That was pretty cool. But then Vision comes down in his makeshift Halloween costume, which I personally find hilarious. That, like, in hindsight, when you really think about it, Vision really did just go and dress up as itself, which it was hilarious. But he went down, and like Wanda was like, "I'm so happy, you look so great," and then they started this like really cheesy like flirty thing. It was like, "I know you're into like Mexican wrestlers." I guess that's what he was supposedly going as, but like I think we all know that he's just going as himself. He's like kind of innuendo that he's going as a Mexican wrestler, because Wanda really is into that. But then they have like this really cheesy but really funny, like nice flirty moment, which honestly kind of reminded me of the relationships and the like flirtations between Morticia and Gomez from the Addams Family movies and TV show, which I thought was pretty good and really fitting with them. And then Wanda was like, "Oh, I'm so happy that you're going to amuse me and the children when we go trick-or-treating." And he was like, "What? Oh, no," because he's been having enough of this fake reality. And he was like, "I'm going to the neighborhood watch to watch after the kids and to make sure nobody's committing any crimes." And Wanda was about to slip up, and she was about to get real angry, and was like, "No, you're not supposed to do that." And he was like about to be like, "Do what, Wanda?" And then she like stopped and composed herself, and she was like, "You said you were going to be with us. Like, you need to be with us. This is like Billy and Tommy's first Halloween." And then he was like, just "Trust me, I'll go out on my own. I'll be back soon." And then we also see that Quicksilver has been very, very interested in the twins ever since he got here. Again, and the town, more or less, some force has been really convincing Wanda to go through with having children, which we saw in the first 2 episodes. So again, I thought that was also pretty interesting. So he's like, "Don't worry, I'll be the father figure of today, this Halloween." And so I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, and so like Vision leaves, trying to like get away from it, and but even before he leaves, he like kisses Wanda and was like, "Be good," in a very condescending way, even though he really meant don't do evil stuff today. But he didn't want to blow his cover, so it's like, just be good. Again, in a very condescending way. So Wanda sends Quicksilver and Tommy to go get their costumes, and they rush out, and they come back in like one big like makeshift Quicksilver costume and one little one, which also alludes to Tommy getting his own like Quicksilver-esque costume, which is fantastic. I love it. Evan Peters' costume though was like really good, and I just love the scenes, and a lot of the stills are like beautiful when you look at them, like how they look so much fun. The production design again was fantastic throughout this entire episode. So I just love everything about Quicksilver's like Halloween costume, how it's both comic accurate but also looks again makeshift, and even down to the hair, how he redid his hair to make it look more like Quicksilver from the comics, even though in some of the stills they did kind of look more like Wolverine's hair. So I think they could have done a little bit more to like tone it down a little bit, but I still liked it a lot. And so we're transported back to Sword headquarters, where we go back and we see all these agents in hazmat suits hauling away stuff that they have found and have recovered from outside the Westview Hex. And then we go and see Director Hayward talking to Monica and the Dream Team, but as Monica says, Hayward has basically been looking for a reason to haul them off and to get them off his tail. So, but then again, when you think about it, he didn't have to be so cruel and below the belt. Like everything he mentioned about Monica's mom, how it probably was a good idea that she blipped after she died or before she died, just so her mother didn't see what she had become. That was very below the belt, and it was like, oh, Hayward has gone full villain, and there's really no hiding it now. And yeah, that was really bad. he at that point where he was like, and also like haul off the dream team, like send them out of here, out of this base. He should have been at least just twirling his imaginary like mustache like after that, because he just went full villain and didn't look back. And I mean, like, there's no problem with that. We all love like a good like just villain. But yeah, I thought that was like a really powerful scene on many levels. And I also like the puns and like the wittiness of Darcy in this episode. She was like, "Oh look, it's the guy that almost got shot or almost got killed by his own murder squad." So I thought that was hilarious. So yeah, and then one theory I do have is that probably Ultron is somewhat a part of this and might be working in a way with Hayward to get Vision back for their own nefarious deeds. Because throughout this episode, you do come to really realize that Hayward is after Vision, but nobody really knows why. So yeah, Ultron is in some way probably gonna come back, in my opinion. And like James Spader, he's not really doing anything right now. Bring him back. He's free. So yeah, and then we cut back outside the base and we see the dream team being hauled off, and then we get like this short but very cool fight scene between Jimmy and Monica, like just fighting off the guards and like going back and infiltrating the sword base. And I like how just Darcy was just standing there during that fight scene who didn't know what to do. So I thought that was pretty funny, and I was like, yeah, Darcy, just stand there and be safe. You're doing great. But yeah, that was a really cool and powerful scene. Now, this is a big scene in my opinion. So, right now we're back inside the Westview Hex and we see Wanda, the twins, and Pietro behind them, like very much behind them in a way. And they're walking and like the twins are having fun, but if you look closely and you look at Pietro with this creepy face, or like this creepy smile, and his hair like at a certain angle, you could see it actually looks a lot like devil horns or demon horns. So again, that kind of plays into the fact that he might be working for Mephisto or Nightmare or both, which I thought was pretty cool and a little creepy in the same way. I love WandaVision. I love how they do that and how they do that. And the cinematography throughout the show is great as well. So again, we see that, and then the twins are going off to go get candy, and then Quicksilver catches up to them and was like, "Raise hell, demon spawns!" And it was like the same, not just demon spawns. He didn't just say that, but he said raise hell, like actually like what maybe they're trying to do, because they are shards of the demon Mephisto. So again, it's like it's all piecing together, and it like before our eyes, like there's so many clues that are leading us to something big, especially since we now just finished like the second act of the show. Like, since this is a 9-episode series, episodes 1 through 3 was the first act, episodes 4 through 6 were the second act, where we lay everything down. So now we're getting to the third act of the TV show next Friday. So that's very exciting. So then we see Wanda and Pietro have this very close talk together, and it was like Wanda was asking him about those fond memories they had, and then Quicksilver or Pietro was like, obviously knew that she was testing him. Like, we all knew that she was testing him. And it was like, it's okay, I test myself too if I had a different face. And then she, along with us, were like, why do you have a different face though? And I think that might be a way that he might try to manipulate her into like opening up the multiverse for some reason. It was like, yeah, you have tons of like billions of other brothers out there. So that could be an interesting development. And then it was like, and then Wanda was a little creeped out, and she was like, just play with your brothers and don't wreak havoc. But they wreak havoc. They just wreak tons of havoc throughout their neighborhood, or that part of the neighborhood. It was like insane. But then Wanda goes and talks to Herb, who I've been missing a lot. He was like very funny in the first 2 episodes. And he was actually had a very good scene in episode 3, which we talked about. But we go and talk to Herb, and she asked what happened to Vision, how is he doing with Neighborhood Watch, and he was like, oh, Vision isn't a part of us, he isn't with Neighborhood Watch right now. And he was like, oh, busted. And then we know that Vision is trying to go investigate. And then Wanda was like, something's a little off here, don't you think? And then like Herb like freezes in like fear and was like, oh, do we need to change something? Is something really wrong that we need to change? Kind of again innuendoing that Wanda is like not in full control, but in enough control to get everybody to know that if there's something that needs to be changed, they need to change it now before they get thrown out of this hex. So, yeah. And so we cut back to Vision, and he's walking around investigating on the outer rim of Westview, of the Westview neighborhood, and we catch this woman trying hard to like hook this ghost onto her lawn, but is trapped in a loop. And we zoom in on her, and she sheds a single powerful tear. It was like very creepy, and like Vision knows it, but like Vision was like, it's so creepy, but I gotta get along and find out what's happening here. He was like, I'm sorry, woman, your time is up. Like I don't know what to do for you. You're gonna have to fend for yourself in this loop. Sucks to be her. But he goes on, and then we cut to a commercial, which I think might have been like, besides the Lagos one, which is arguably the best one that we've seen so far, this is like a close like third after the Lagos one, and to be honest, the Hydra one in episode 2. So yeah, so in this commercial, it kind of seemed like it's a representation of Pietro, or this version of Pietro, trying to manipulate the kids to unleash their powers, or like to ramp up their powers more quickly. And we kind of start to see those signs later in the episode when their powers do start to emerge. And like in this commercial, we see a kid, most likely Billy, because he's stranded on an island surrounded by strikingly blue water, much like how Billy's magic is in the color blue. And he is also like most definitely like a depiction of Billy, because he has on his signature red shirt. And then this shark comes up and was like, hey, you need help? Try Yo Magic. And it also could be like a symbol of like this version of like, or like the beach island version of like a green snake who seems friendly but is most often not, and is trying to trick you into doing something you wouldn't normally do. And it was like at the end, at the tagline of like Yo Magic, it's made for survivors. And like this was like a very like depressing and morbid commercial, which I honestly love from Marvel. Like, yes, Marvel, give us more morbid stuff and more creepy horror movie type stuff, which also makes me excited for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is confirmed to be a Marvel horror movie. So yeah, that's very exciting. But still, we watch as the kid who's trying to peel back this yogurt plate to eat slowly decay as he can't open it overnight, over like days. He slowly decays until it's a literal child skeleton. Wow, that was insane. But I love that side of Marvel. That was a fantastic commercial. But yeah, that was both morbid but hilarious at the same time. And I think it's like an innuendo to that Quicksilver is going to like make the children ramp up their powers even more, even after they emerged. It was like, if you don't ramp up your powers now, you're going to die. So you better like make sure you survive this. Maybe because Mephisto or Nightmare wants the children for their needs. Maybe to help Mephisto walk the earth, like unleash hell spawns. This show is amazing. This show is so fantastic, and it's so well written. Like I said, it's also so well structured. And so we cut back to Wanda and Pietro and the twins, and they just passed the movie theater, which you look closely, what they're showing in the movie theater is 2 Disney movies, The Incredibles and The Parent Trap. And this is important because if you remember, I think everybody's watched The Incredibles. Come on. But if you remember, The Incredibles is about a super powered family, while The Parent Trap is heavily about twins, like Wanda and Pietro and Billy and Tommy. Wanda's obsessed with twins. So I thought that was like a great thing Wanda would add if she did. She probably added that. So I thought that was like a great nod. But they keep going, and like Billy and Tommy go off, but they'll eventually come back. And Wanda and Pietro are back to having a conversation again, still trying to more or less test Pietro. And Wanda was like, they were just having a conversation, and they were like about to get into like an argument, honestly. And then Wanda was like, whatever happened to your accent though? You're really starting to be different. And then he evaded the question by asking her back, what happened to yours? And we all know that she has her accent, but it's only active when she goes outside of the Westview Hex. And it was like, again, there really were like testing each other to a point, and like you could almost see that Pietro is not really super fazed by this, because Wanda is no longer his main priority. It's the twins for whatever reason. And then they come back, and we see, at least at this time, one of them has their powers right now, and that is Tommy with super speed. And I actually like the acting in this scene, which was so good from Elizabeth Olsen especially. But I like the line Evan Peters says. It was like, you gotta chip off the Maximoff bloodstream, don't you, boy? You know, I thought that was fantastic. And he was like, oh, you're gonna have so much fun with super speed, you're gonna take after your uncle, super speed is so fun. And like Tommy was legitimately excited. He was like, yes, I get super speed. And I love that Wanda was excited for them, and he was like, oh, I'm so happy, just be safe, you can run as fast as you like. I really like that in Wanda. And it was like, and I also like the motherly thing she was doing. It was like, if you want to break the sound barrier, you're gonna have to take Billy with you. I thought that was hilarious as well. And then there was one thing, we'll get to it later, because I really have a theory about what Ellis Avenue is based on. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But Wanda said, hey, before you run off, make sure you don't. And then the twins cut her off and was like, we know, don't run out of Ellis Avenue, or don't run to Ellis Avenue, which is where the main edge of the Westview Hex barrier is. I thought that was personally fantastic. I thought that entire scene was spectacular. Okay, so we check back in on our favorite trio as they have snuck in, I think, into like a bunker, or like where they keep all their data. And like, luckily or conveniently, Darcy Lewis knows how to hack into computers, so she hacks into the mainframe of the Sword base. It hacks into Director Hayward's personal laptop, and they find out that basically he already knows how to monitor, and it has been monitoring from inside the Westview Hex. So then we learned that he's mostly monitoring Vision, and by Vision I mean decaying vibranium, or vibranium decay, and how it's moving. And most of the time it's besides Wanda, so he has like eyes on him and Wanda at mostly at all times. So I thought that was also very interesting. But again, it's like the one problem I have with these episodes is, like, sometimes I feel like we're like a couple like moves or steps ahead of the main crew at figuring out this mystery. Like, obviously he because they were asking, why is he tracking Vision? And it was like, obviously because he wants to get back to like experimenting on him and doing weapons on him. He's like the science and technology villain of this series. So so that was cool. I really like that. And then they checked and saw that at the very edge, or like the premier edge of the Westview Hex, there's a bunch of people spread out there. But since they're not completely focused in, or like in the middle of the town hall, or the town center, where everybody else is, where Wanda has close access to their minds, they're really just stuck there in just these permanent positions where they're not moving. They're like at the very back of the set where they don't have to move, hilariously enough, since it is based off a sitcom. So again, they're wondering what happened, and we go back inside the Westview Hex, and we see Vision walking around, and now he's at the back lot where everybody's frozen, and he's like trying to wonder what's going on, and he tried to be like, hello, can you see me? And it seems like nobody's seeing him because they're all frozen like a time. They're not even in a loop anymore. So it seems like Wanda's powers can like only do so much inside the hex, and she really needs to be focused. The only time she's focused is when there's not that many distractions around, where she can like really just like focus on everyone. So that's pretty cool. So he flies up and like goes into his like actual costume, or like transform into his actual costume, since nobody's really watching him. And he's like, he just goes up and he was like, what? He's trying to like survey the entire town and finds out what's going on, and then he sees this bright car at the edge of the hex, which looks like it's trying to get out. And again, it was like, that was a beautiful scene right there. And then Vision flies down, and we learn that's Agnes's car, and it's almost the same scene we saw from the trailer, but with added footage, which actually makes the scene a little better, in my opinion. And he was like, yo, what's going on? She like revives her, or not revive her, more or less, like unlocks her brain, and she was shocked at first. It was like, what's going on? And it was like, and then again, like, she wasn't entirely mute when he first saw her in the car, because she was like, I was trying to find the town square, and then I got lost. And which was also a very powerful scene. Catherine Hahn had great acting in this scene. And then he unlocked like her full brain, and then she was like, what happened? What's going on? And then Vision was like, do you not remember? You were just speaking. And he was like, and then she looked at him and was like, you're Vision, you're one of the Avengers. Are you here to help us? And then Vision was like, I am here to help you, but what is an Avenger? Which goes to show that Vision does not have all his memories, and maybe, just maybe, Wanda's purposely blocking them. Ooh, that would be very interesting. And she was like, you don't remember either? And it was like, what are you gonna do? And it was like, am I dead? And Vision was like, no. Why would you think you're dead? And she was like, because you are Vision. And he was like shocked, and she kept on screaming at him like, you're dead. And it was like, it wasn't like scary, it was like more or less creepy, but it was still pretty cool. And then he flew back and like locked up with her brain again, and just to calm her down. And he was like, I will find a way to help you. And she was like, okie dokie, neighbor, in like this weird creepy way again. And she drove back and did a U-turn back into the main center of Westview. And one thing we do see is that we get a close up at the sign that says Ellis Avenue. And I think this is a reference to President Ellis from the Marvel movies, or from more specifically the MCU movies, where he has an active role behind the scenes, where he was the one that hired General Thunderbolt Ross, and who like helped enact the Sokovia Accords, which put Wanda in prison for a considerable amount of time in Civil War. That was pretty cool. I think that's an amazing reference to show Wanda's trauma. And now that I'm thinking about it, he was also in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show, and ironically enough, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in its 4th season had like an entire storyline that's similar to WandaVision, where they're inside this like simulation called the Framework, and they had to slowly figure out how to get out, and that they were in an alternate like setting or reality, or an augmented reality for them. But wow, a lot to unpack in WandaVision. This show's so good on so many levels. It's insane. So we go back to our trio, and then Monica gets a text after Darcy was just skimming through while hacking Monica's medical records, and Monica gets a text that her inside guy who can, or their like celestial or like space like their engineer, their aerospace engineer, is on his way in an hour, which means we'll probably see him in the next episode. Very exciting. Like the anticipation for who that is honestly killing me. But so we now got that confirmation, and I'm still wondering who it could be, but I'm pretty sure it's either Reed Richards or maybe like Hank McCoy pre-Beast. So that, again, that's exciting. Or it could be Hank Pym. It could be. but it's probably not him. He's already tied up with a lot with the quantum realm, so that's another story. But again, so Monica was planning, we better meet him now because he was probably going to meet us at the Ridge. But Darcy was like, hey, you probably can't like go back into there because you've been in and out of the Westview Hex 2 times already, and whatever radiation is in there, it has been rewriting your DNA like constantly. And it was like, ooh, I love an origin story. We love origin stories here. And that's probably going to be the MCU origin story for her superhero, Photon. And there's been a lot of references to her character because they've mentioned photons, radio waves, which are a part of her powers. It's really exciting, and some of you guys have been suggesting that since it's been rewriting DNA every time people have been in the Westview Hex, that it's probably going to be like the main cause of mutants. So I think that's also very exciting, and if there's an accident that goes on that we've seen in some of the trailers with like this aerospace like truck that they're trying to ram into the Westview Hex, and if it is Hank McCoy, again, mutants are coming. It's so exciting. But again, Darcy says she can't go in there because it's a danger to her cells. But she's like, I don't really care. I'm trying to help Wanda. I know what she's going through. And it reminded me that Monica's loss of her mother was still like very fresh in her mind, even though it's been 5 years in the past. But again, she's been blipped and then just revived back. So it's one of those things where it's like, she knows the pain and she's seen cells being rewritten by cancer through her mom. And so she's willing to help Wanda in any way possible to help her get through this grief and pain. And all that means is that she has to undo the hex and save Wanda. Which is, again, it makes a true hero out of Monica, which we love seeing from our hero. So we see Wanda and Pietro walking during this Halloween festival near the movie theater in this like makeshift not hayride, but like this hay maze, like made out of like corn maze. But it was cool. And then they sat down and they were like talking as siblings, and I really liked how, and the acting here is amazing between Elizabeth Olsen and Evan Peters, how they were really acting like siblings. I thought that was really cool and really good. Amazing acting where they didn't even overdo it as well. And then what happens is Evan Peters' Pietro walks by, or like sees a bunch of children walk by, and he was like, hey, and goes to Wanda, was like, hey, where did all these children come from? Because I know they weren't here like yesterday. So you obviously did it. And it was like, I love how you also considered the emotional and like the ethical considerations of this. You really put a lot of thought into how you made this world. And he was really pressuring Wanda to expel. And he even went there and was like, how exactly did you do it? And it was like, Wanda was like taken aback because she really didn't even know herself. It seems like she's really pulling back on emotional trauma, which he mentioned earlier in this episode. And it might be also explained why she keeps on seeing dead versions of the people she most loves. This time it was Pietro. Well, not Evan Peters' Pietro, but like he was he was basically the zombified version of what Aaron Taylor Johnson's Pietro would have been if he was like still here. But yeah, I thought that was all like crazy. I thought that was really good. And it was like he was interrogating her to like spill like, how did you do this? Maybe for possibly nefarious reasons. And then we see Darcy. We're out of the hex now. We see Darcy, and she's still uncovering stuff. And she sees this file called Project Cataract, which I don't know if it correlates to the comics. If it does, do leave a comment down below. But she sends an email before she reaches her dark fate at the end of the episode. She sent it as an email to Jamie Woo. So we'll probably uncover more about that in the later episodes. So that was interesting. Again, those are two, that one between Wanda and Pietro, again, fantastic scene. So we check back in with Vision inside the hex, and then we see him slowly trying to break through the barrier to reach any people on the outside. And I just gotta say, all the visuals we've got from that were amazing. Again, the director of cinematography should legit win an Emmy because this was spectacular, and so should the VFX team. If they have there's any chance of them winning an Emmy, I mean Emmys if I didn't say that, they should win it. They definitely deserve it for this show. It's so spectacular. But yeah, and then what ends up happening is Sword was basically waiting for him outside and just letting him die. And director Hayward was like, oh, he sure wants to get out. Wanda wants him in and he wants out. And they were just letting him decay in front of their eyes. Maybe Sword is the new Hydra. That might be a clue. From the first 2 episodes, that may be insinuating that Hydra has maybe not just infiltrated Sword, but maybe already had or has always had their hand in it and just been a part of it the entire time. It's maybe be their subsidiary corporation. That would be insane if that was a twist. That would be insane, but it's probably not. Wishful thinking though. Ooh. But anyway, so they're watching him decay, and the one thing I did notice, his Mind Stone, even though he was technically outside of the Hex, it was still glowing. It was still real. And then that made me think, especially when he fell down and started to die, well, not really die, but die, you start to see his Mind Stone just stop glowing. And then it kind of made me realize Hayward might be behind this. Maybe he set Wanda up to go snatch Vision to create another Mind Stone. That would be insane. And like I said, they are interested in building weapons. And since all the other Infinity Stones have been brought back to their rightful places in time, having Wanda create an Infinity Stone unknowingly for Sword would be an amazing weapon for Sword. And they are now interested in building weapons and using it to defend themselves from other life forms from across the universe. So, and yeah, the Mind Stone would be one powerful weapon, not gonna lie. So that would be insane. But then Wiccan, his powers start to unleash, and he's hears his dad crying for help. And then Tommy was about to run into him, but he stops him with his magic, the magic that comes from his mom. And in the comics, while his mother's magic's mostly red, his is blue. Oh, the geek in me is screaming right now. It's so good. Wiccan is an amazing character in the comics. But yeah, again, it was fantastic. So they run up to him and he was like, hey mom, dad is in trouble, he's about to die. So after hearing that news, Wanda starts to worry, and then Quicksilver tries to come up with a quick one-liner because he really doesn't care. He does not care about Vision. He honestly wants Vision out of the equation entirely. And he's like, it's now your husband could die twice. And Wanda, that was the moment she clicked. It clicked in her mind, I'm pretty sure, that that's not her brother at all in any sense of the word. So she uses her own powers against him. So he's knocked out now, and then Wanda uses her powers to basically freeze everyone in town, and uses her powers to expand the Hex field, which was an amazing sight to see. And it literally encased what we can see. It kind of encased everything, or almost the entirety of New Jersey, which is goes to show how powerful Wanda truly is. And so I think the only people that didn't get encased in the Hex were Hayward. Sadly, he should have just gotten in there and been tortured. But Monica and Jimmy Woo were saved. Hooray. And then that was it. The rest of the Sword agents and the Sword base was engulfed and turned into a circus full of clowns. That's what they are, a circus full of clowns. There, I said it. And then Darcy was stuck there. She couldn't leave, so she got encased in the in like the hex. So I wonder where she'll be. I wonder how she'll adapt to the sitcom world. Maybe since she is a techno whiz, she might just appear as a new worker at Vision's job. Ooh, that actually sounds like great now that I'm thinking about it. This was a fantastic episode when you go through a second viewing. It was so good. So that's my review and breakdown of WandaVision episode 6. What did you think? Share your thoughts down below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and follow my Instagram. The link is always in the description. Okay, bye.